Hi, engineering students. Mr. Walker here. I'm going to go through an entire building project of this model that we did for Revolve with holes, just so you see how I would do it. And you can sort of use this as a model in the future for creating 3D models in our OnShape CAD. So I have the front plane open, ready to draw on. On the left, I have the assignment out of Project Lead the Way, which shows the dimension drawings. Notice everything is in inches, so I'm good there. Now, on these cylinders that I have on the bottom one, I'm going to do it by revolving. On the top, I'm going to do it by extrusion, just to show you there's two ways to do it. And you pick the one that's easiest at the moment, right? So I'm going to actually start, if you look at the half rectangle here, so if I'm going to revolve the bottom, I need half of this rectangle. So the whole width of it is the same as the diameter of this cylinder, which is 1.25 inches. So half of that would be 0.625. The height of the rectangle is half an inch, 0.5. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create a sketch on this surface, this plane. I'm going to hit normal on the keyboard. And I'm going to draw the rectangle. I'm going to start at the origin and I'm going to go up and over. And I'm going to make this one half of 1.25, which is 0.625. And I'm going to make the height 0.5 as called out in the drawing. And there I have my rectangle, half rectangle that I can revolve, right? So I'm going to click on the check mark. I'm going to go to isometric so I can see it from the side. And instead of extrude, I'm going to click on revolve. I'm going to click on what I want to revolve, and then I'm going to click on the axis I want to revolve, which is the center. And there I go. I have my first cylinder down on the bottom. So I turn off the front plane now, and I can now add sketches directly on top of this cylinder. So I'm going to add another sketch on top of this one. I'm going to hit N to normalize it. Now it says this inside square here, this dimension, if you know, this is 0.25 halfway. So it's 0.5 wide. And if you do some calculating here, you'll realize 2.5 minus 0.5 is 2, minus 0.25 is 1.75. So this rectangle in here is 0.5 by 0.5. If you look up here, it's a square, 0.5 by 0.5, but then it extrudes 1.75 up, okay? So I'm going to actually draw the square here around the center point, and I'm going to make it exactly 0.5 and 0.5. And then I want to make sure that the square is actually centered in the middle of the cylinder. So I need to click on the dimension tool, click on the center point and the side edge, and make this one half of 0.5, which is 0.25. And then I make it this direction here. I make sure it's 0.5, half of 0.5, which is 0.25. So that gives me a 0.5 by 0.5 square centered in the middle of the cylinder. I click on the green check mark. I go to my isometric view and make it a little smaller here. And I'm going to actually extrude the square. And remember I said earlier the square should extrude to 1.75 inches. So there you have the square pedestal, green check mark. Now on top here, it would be rather difficult. You could put another plane back in it and do a revolve, but here it's going to be easier just to do a circle and extrusion. So I'm going to click on sketch. I'm going to click on the top of the square. I'm going to hit normal. I'm going to actually draw the circle here. Now you'll notice that circle is the same diameter on the top as it is on the bottom, 1.25 in diameter. So I'm going to click on the center point. I'm going to pull back to line up with what I had before and click. And just to make sure it's exactly 1.25, I'm going to type it in, 1.25, enter. So now I've just created my sketch on top of my sketch actually up here on top of the pedestal. Notice it kind of fans out around it, but I can still extrude it as long as part of it's attached to a plane here. So I'm going to click on extrusion. I'm going to click on the circle, and it's going to extrude up. Now in this case, this circle is 0.25 inches tall, so I want my extrusion depth to be 0.25 inches. And now notice when I selected the circle, it did not select the center part. So you also have to select the center part of your sketch because it ended up being in two parts because I circled around the square. So you have to click on the square as well as the donut. And there you go, you have your top on here, green check. So the only thing left now is to put some holes in the side. Now you can do holes by putting points and then using the hole command, or you can actually just put circles and extrude the circles, which is easier to do in this case. I'm going to click on sketch. I'm going to click on the side of this pedestal, hit normal, and I'm going to put in my 3 circles here. Okay, so I know that they have to be about a half an inch above the bottom, and we'll fix that later. But notice each of these hole call outs is 0.25 diameter through typical. Typical means all 3 of these are the same. So it's going to be a 1/4 inch hole going all the way through. So I'm going to it gives me the center line here. Notice as I start, I have the center line to start. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to make this first one 0.25. I'm going to come up about halfway, staying on the center line here. Make sure you stay on the center line. I'm going to click again, pull this one back, make this one 0.25. And then I'm going to come up, staying on the center line. I'm going to make a third one, pull back, and make it 0.25. So I've got all 3 holes with the correct diameter, but I have to check one more thing. I have to make sure they're all spaced a half an inch center to center and a half an inch from the bottom pedestal. So again, I click on my dimension tool. I click on center point to bottom. That has to be 0.5. I click on, and then between each of these, you notice it's a half an inch between each hole. So I click on center of this hole and center of this hole. And this one has to be 0.5. And then I click on center point to center point, and this one has to be 0.5. And so now I've got 0.5 between each of my holes. Each one's a 1/4 inch diameter. I can click on the green check mark. I can go to isometric, and then I can extrude. Now, when you extrude, you can extrude more than one thing at a time. I'm going to extrude this hole. I'm going to extrude this hole. I'm going to extrude this hole. Now, OnShape assumes that you want to add material, but we actually want to remove material. So I'm going to click on remove, and notice the reverse should go all the way through the part, taking it out. And so I can click on my check mark, and there you go. You have your finished project.